All right, looks like it is about that time. So first, let me introduce myself. My name is Devyn Bellamy. Hello. How's everyone doing? That's fantastic. You sound like you just had a very large meal. That was very lethargic and quiet, but that's okay. I forgive you. I still like you. First, let me start off by saying I have a day job. I work as, well, we'll get into where I work now, but the point is I'm not trying to sell you anything. So you can breathe easy there. First, let's go over what we're going to talk about today. Well, we were going to do that, but then, oh, okay, the computer fell asleep. Now we're back. We're going to be talking about the 5W's of your marketing budget, about how to basically market with money effectively. The first thing we'll cover is why you should spend it all. Why even bother spending money on marketing? Because Facebook's free, Instagram's free, right? Where should you spend your money? What should you spend your money on, or how much should you spend? Who should be spending the marketing money? That is a great question. We're going to cover that. When is the best time to spend your marketing money, and how will I know if my marketing money is working? Now, I'll tell you that this presentation is for everyone. It's going to start out light and easy, and by the time we get to the end, it's going to be a lot of math. So if you start to zone out towards the end, I'll understand, but we're going to cover it anyway, and I'm sure the presentation will be available to download later. So before we get into it, first let's talk about me. I have been marketing since I was 14 years old, and I am 37 now, which means I was marketing since 1994. I originally started designing websites for companies back then. I grew up in the Silicon Valley, so that was like the in thing to do, was design websites in '94. And from there, I grew up, started my own agency. That's a shot of me when I was a portfolio company owner at the YBI. If you guys remember that 11th best sign that they had on the wall before the first best one, I was the one that made that one. And I did a stint in radio when I was living here locally. I lived here for 15 years. I was Devyn on the Steve Harvey Morning Show, and that's how people knew me. It was really weird getting recognized at Walmart. And now I am the marketing manager at Tower Industries. And as you can see, throughout my marketing tenure, I have stayed very happy about marketing. Tower Industries, real quick, we're just a manufacturing company in Massillon, Ohio. We make countertops, solid surface showers, really exciting stuff. So first, let's go into the why. Why should you spend it all? Sure, a lot of you have heard, if they build it, will come. If we make this company, if we have this service, people will partake. That is a lie. If people, well, here is said best, trying to do business without advertising is like winking in the dark. You know what you're doing and keeping up a powerful winking, but nobody has any idea of it. Reminds me of a story of a guy I knew. He had these fantastic brochures. He had 20 different versions of his brochures, and all of his brochures were on the conference table in his building. No one ever saw the brochures. So that was his marketing. He got the Vistaprint thing down, but didn't get past that. Another one is a man who stops marketing or stops advertising to save money is like a man who stops a clock to save time. Some people are under the impression that if their sales are dropping or their marketing is dropping, then advertising is the first place that they need to make their cuts. No, because if you aren't marketing, you aren't going to sell. No one's going to know you exist. And my favorite quote is from Devyn Bellamy Sr. It's organic marketing is harder this year than it was last year, and it will be harder next year than it was this year. It used to be easy to grow organically on your websites and using SEO, and all you had to do was make sure that the right word was in the right place, and hey, you got your H1 tags. It's not that simple anymore. Google is smarter now. Case in point, Facebook. Oh my goodness, at the beginning of the year, Facebook is talking about we're going to make it so much harder for everyone to be putting out this organic content. And it's harder for influencers to share organic content unless someone's selling it, but hey, you can still pay us. But things have changed, even doubled down since then, ever since the Cambridge Analytica thing. Now, not only is organic marketing harder, paid marketing is harder. If people are interacting with your page on a regular basis, they're not going to see the ad that you paid for them to see. And that's Facebook that told me that. Craziness. So why spend it all? What's the point? The man's controlling the internet. But the truth is that they're just trying to make the internet a better place for viewers, making it better for people to see what they want to see and not see what they don't want to see. Make the internet less spammy. So why have a formal budget? Why even bother spending this money if there's so many forces at work trying to keep you from seeing what you want to see? The thing is that it keeps you focused. And that Facebook tactic that you used last year might not work this year, but having a budget will let you know that it's that Facebook tactic that's not working, because you're not just segmenting your money, you're tracking your ROI, your return on investment. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to keep from spending out of control on things that don't work, how to find out what is working that you didn't think was going to work. Well, let's talk more about it. First thing, let's talk about where you should spend your money. The simplest things to find your water hole. Assuming that you have identified your ideal buyer profile, you know who your buyer persona is, you know who you want to sell to, what you want to do is find out where they're getting their information and you want to be there. That's where you want to spend money, ideally. Like, for instance, let's say you are trying to get to gamers. Okay, I want to market to gamers. Where do gamers live outside of the game? Well, there's a service called Twitch where they live stream games. There's YouTube where you can watch videos of guys playing games that you don't even own. Or you could just get a magazine and read about the games that you don't own, about the guys that are streaming on Twitch that own the stuff that you don't have. I'm guilty. I watch these things. I play EVE Online, total nerd game. So let's talk about something simpler, mechanics. Mechanics live on Facebook. They're on Instagram. They read Ratchet and Wrench. I know because my last job, I was marketing director and for a company that sold directly to mechanics. That's where we were. In short, to quote one of my favorite women who have ever existed, you want to be where the people are. I almost sang that, but I changed my mind. You're welcome. The idea is to find the right water hole. But once you find the right water hole, you're only halfway there. You can't just post anything. First, you want whatever it is you're posting to be helpful. You want to contribute more than you're getting from the conversation that you're having, even though it's technically a one-way conversation. Even if you're having a two-way conversation, you want to offer at least 51% of the 51% of the value of the conversation. Like that's something Gary Vee says. And if you can't be helpful, at least be funny. Secondly, you want to be relevant. You don't want to be advertising ties on an athletic site. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You want to be relevant to where you're posting. And not just that, it goes deeper. You want to make sure that if you're posting something on Facebook, that it belongs on Facebook. If you're posting a Facebook post, that doesn't necessarily mean that that same Facebook post belongs on LinkedIn. And last but not least, you want to be where the eyeballs are. You could find the coolest, most niche magazine on the face of the planet that has everything you want, but only has 3 readers, then that's a horrible place to spend your money. Finding out where you can be effective is the difference between failure and success. What I recommend is the bullseye framework. This is something from the book Traction by Gabriel, I can't remember his last name, but I'll have his show it at the end. But the bullseye framework can help you identify what channels you want to start with. I'm not going to go into that because that's a whole separate presentation, but just write down bullseye framework. So, next thing is, what should you spend? That's an excellent question. How much money should I be spending? The thing is that there are a couple different schools of thought. Some people go with percentage of gross, and dollars are determined by profit, usually 5%, 15% of gross, depending on your overall revenue. Now, the thing is that it's great because it's a great starting point if you don't know where to do. It's like, you know what, I'm just going to spend 5% of the money we have, and that's what we're going to start with. It's organic, and it'll move, and it's flexible, grow with you. The problem is that it can be too simple of an approach. One of the things that can happen is that you can make an annual commitment or an annual ad buy, and you just not be making that kind of money. Next thing you know, you're over budget, and that can be a little scary. And the other thing is that it may not be realistic. that 5% that you have allocated might not be the correct level for you to go to market. You might need to spend initially more in order to get out there. That's just something to take into consideration. You might have to spend more money than you were prepared to. But the good news is you'll be able to track that spend. Now, the other thing is the fixed dollar amount. This is great for veterans, people who have been in the game for a while, know how much money they need to spend in order to be successful. It's more detailed. It's easier to segment your dollars and know, okay, this percentage of this money is going to go here. This dollar amount's going to go there. I know that I advertise in this special or this trade show every year, and this is how much it's going to cost me. The cons is that it can be tougher to estimate because prices fluctuate. It may not be flexible enough because you may need more money, or you might have allocated too much money to one thing when you needed it somewhere else. What I like to do is do both. Put out a firm number, but use your percentage as a ceiling. That's the way I do it at Tower. What I'll do is we go for 5% of gross for residential, we'll say, but what I'll do is I'll have a set dollar amount, and I'm going to work towards this dollar amount and not basically use that 5% as a ceiling. I'm not going to go over that 5%, but I'm familiar enough with the industry, familiar enough with who I'm working with, that I know how much money I plan to spend. But also, again, it's really important to know who's spending that money, because that's the only way your spend is really going to be truly effective. Now, your marketing spend is the most important thing you can do, but having a strategy, knowing that, okay, I want to advertise on Facebook because that's where a lot of our target demographic is. I want to advertise on Twitter because I know that's where our buyers are. Just because you want to do that doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best person to do it. Now, anybody here handle their own marketing right now? Show of hands. Any agencies? Anybody who's completely green to spending money on your marketing? It's okay, you can raise your hand, I won't hold it against you. Well, the thing is that if some of these terms seem confusing, or you've heard them but you don't know what they mean, that means that you might not be the best person to be doing the ad spend, because you don't know how to track your dollars and whether or not they're effective. It's a lot more than just spending money. People came in, yay, advertising is effective. That's not the way it works. Basically, what you want to do is, you can do one of three things. The first thing you can do is you can hire a unicorn. Not a little unicorn, someone who can do it all. Someone who's comfortable with strategy, who can do strategy at 1 second, who can implement the next moment, someone who can do the budget, someone who could track the spend, someone who can design, someone who can write. And they do exist because I'm one of them. The problem is that I'm not for hire. The key is to, if you find a unicorn, pay them well and they will not leave. So that's why I'm still with Tower. The next thing you can do is you can hire some Jedi ninjas, just a team of people who can get together and accomplish everything. That's what I had at my last job, where I was director of marketing for that tech startup. Now, with these Jedi ninjas, you can have one guy who is just a copywriting genius, and another guy who is a design genius, and another guy who's a video genius, and together they can form Voltron and take over the marketing world. The thing is that that's what we had, but we still needed help. And so the Jedi Ninja option is available, but what really helped me, even with my unicorn status, even with my Jedi Ninjas, there were still things that we needed help with, so we reached out to an agency. The nice thing about agencies is that they're very flexible. Agencies can help you with just one little piece, like for us, they just helped us with our social media and press releases, or agencies can be your full-on marketing department, and they can help you establish that budget. That's just something that I would highly recommend looking into. If you're green, if you're unsure, work with the agencies, because they're not going to cheat you. They're not going to say, hey, yeah, give me $100,000, I'm going to give you $10,000 worth of effort, because they wouldn't be in business very long. I highly, highly recommend, if there is a weak point in your marketing, talk to an agency. Now, the next thing is, when should you start spending money? This is the easiest one. Yesterday. If you aren't spending money on your advertising, if you aren't spending money on your marketing, you're losing because your competitors are. And your competitors know where to spend it, and they're tracking where that investment is coming in. Now, the other thing about when to spend is knowing your product and knowing your market. If you sell Christmas trees, you should not be marketing in July. For my company, we sell countertops. Countertops you would think you can sell anytime, but it really depends on who you're selling these countertops to, or these showers to. If you're sending it to a residential person, then they're gonna want it in the spring because they're gonna be thinking of their spring things and getting everything ready for when the family comes to visit on Thanksgiving and they can show off their brand new kitchen. Universities, on the other hand, you have to close them at the end of fourth quarter because that's when they allocate their spend to do all their summer construction. So knowing who you're targeting when the buy cycle for them is and not just the buy cycle length, that's important. So tailoring your spend around getting in their face when they're looking, when the eyeballs are open, that's important. So how will I know if it is working? All those things we just talked about don't matter if you don't know whether or not you're getting a return on your investment. The ROI. This is a breakdown really quickly of how to calculate your ROI. It's simply what happens when you subtract the spend from your revenue and then divide it by the spend. That's your ROI. The easy thing is just the revenue minus spend is kind of basically what's left over, and then you divide that by your spend and you'll get able to get a percentage. So let's say that you got $1,000 in on a campaign, but you spent $500. That means that your ROI is 100%. Congratulations, you did well on that campaign. That's the simplest way to track your ROI. Now, you can get more granular and you can start getting into channels. Now, this is an actual ROI from a sale that we did last year. And it identifies the channels, and this is before I finished getting all the information. It identifies the channels which were effective. What I was able to do was I was able to ask everyone who came in, hey, how'd you hear about this clearance sale? They say, oh, we heard it on Facebook, heard it from a friend, heard it on the radio. Actually, no one said they heard it on the radio. That was the only one that had a negative ROI. But I was able to calculate how much I spent in each one of these marketing channels, and then turn around and look at how much they spent when they came in from how they had heard about us. And I was able to calculate, it's like, oh, wow. Facebook had a 1,037% ROI. I had a 1,000% return on my Facebook investment. But now that I know that and knowing what Facebook is going through, am I going to spend that kind of money on Facebook again? No. Because I know that, one, I know where that money came in, and I know the likelihood of it coming in again. That's why it's important to know where your money is in your marketing budget and not just earmark a dollar amount. Now, here's the big thing, lead values. This is where it's going to get extremely dry, and I apologize. Basically, these are the numbers that you use to quantify your spend. This is how you establish your key performance indicators. This is where you can see where you are and where your buyers are at each stage of the funnel. This is how you put a dollar value on every person that comes in contact with your company. If you're a business owner, then this is going to help you track your close rates in every stage of the funnel and know where you are as far as meeting your goals before deals are closed. If you're a marketer, this is how you justify your job. This is how you tell your boss, look, this is what my job is worth. This is how much we're bringing in. So, warning, there is math ahead, and I apologize for that. The first thing you want to do in order to calculate lead values correctly, there's some information you need. The first thing you need to know is the lifetime value of your customers. If you sell something on subscription, you need to know how much the lifetime value, how much they're going to spend throughout the life of their subscription. If it's a one-off, like a countertop, they're not going to buy another one for 20 years, you need to know what the average spend on a countertop is. What you would do is you subtract that lifetime value, or subtract your customer acquisition cost from the lifetime value. The fastest way to get your customer acquisition cost is to divide the amount of money spent in marketing by the number of customers that are closed. Now, and the reason why this number is very important is because it can be really scary. You can see that you are spending $1,000 per customer to make $100. That's terrifying, and I've seen it. But on the other end, you can find out that you're only spending $5 for a customer to spend $1,000, and while that's extremely unlikely, that'd be very encouraging. But your customer acquisition cost is important. That gives you your net customer value. So you know how much your customers are worth to you. So that's just a really quick math example. In the interest of time, I'm gonna just skip through it. So the next thing is you want to take your net customer value, multiply it by the sale close rate. Your sales close rate is how many people go from leads to customers. And let me pause really quickly here. If your salespeople haven't identified stages for your customers in their buy cycle, if they can't distinguish a lead from someone who's just a visitor, someone who just converted, or a marketing qualified lead or sales qualified lead, if you don't have those stages in place, then you guys are doing yourself a disservice. But again, completely different presentation. Once you get that done, then you get your net deal value. That's the stage when people are presenting, you know how much those presentations are worth, the value of each of those presentations. So if you spent $4,000 on every customer and you're closing 1 out of 4 people, every person that you present to is worth $1,000 to you at that point. Now we're going to take the net deal value, multiply it by the prospect close rate, and that's the people that you talk to who maybe fill out a form or have been identified as a qualified lead and they make it to that presentation stage. That's that close rate, going from lead to close, or to prospect when they're ready for a presentation. Now, not everyone who crosses your path is ready to be pitched. That's why we have this close rate. That gives you your prospect value. So now you know the value of your qualified leads. So let's say you have a killer conversion path set up, and 75% of the people you come in contact with are the consideration or decision stages of your sales funnel. Each one of your prospects are worth $750. So now what we do is you look at your prospect value, and we multiply that by your lead conversion rate. This is the number of anonymous people who come in contact with you and who decide to opt in to an email list, who fill out a form on your site, hand you a business card, where you get their information, where they're now someone who you know. What you do is you multiply those two and you end up with your lead value. So if 1 in 100 people who visit your website get in touch with you, they're each worth $7.50. But the key to being able to use any of this is knowing your sales funnel. If you don't have an identified stages for your buyers, if you don't have a sales funnel in place, if you don't know your customer, here, this thing has a pointer. If you don't know your customer acquisition cost, if you don't know the lifetime value of your customers, if you don't have these numbers drilled down, then you're just bleeding marketing money. You're bleeding it and you don't even know it. And that's what leads people to say, oh no, I'm spending too much marketing. I'm spending too much money on marketing because I'm not making enough money. Let me reel it in. You might not be spending enough. You're just spending what you are spending wrong because you aren't calculating where people are falling out of your funnel, where if this number drops considerably, if they're here, then you know, oh man, something's wrong. We aren't closing people. Our sales close rate is down, something's wrong. If you aren't tracking on that level as salespeople or as marketers, I should say, and as marketers, you're doing yourself a disservice. That's the end of the math. Woo! It's a lot to take in. I know that that was pretty heavy, and the thing is that it gets even heavier because you can do that on a global scale, but then you do it on the individual marketing channel. You start out by the people who come in on Facebook, the people who come in on LinkedIn, the people you meet at a trade show. And then you establish your customer acquisition costs by customers who come in at a trade show. And it gets super granular, and it's like, so then you hire a marketer or an agency. You don't have to necessarily learn it all yourself. But there are also some free resources for the people who do just need to do it themselves. First off, I recommend books. Traction by Gabriel Weinberg is who I was thinking of. Traction is one. The Lean Startup is another. Now, these two, last time I checked, were both required reading in order to get into the YBI. If you hadn't read these books, you could not be a portfolio company owner. And these two books alone, game changers on any level you work in business. And as marketers, highly recommend the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. The examples they give are extremely dated and yet somehow extremely relevant. I love the books. Next thing, there are free classes and certifications out there. I recommend HubSpot certifications. That's just 6 of the 14 that I have or something like that. I have them all, and it's the only reason why I'm able to market on the level that I do with no college degree, I might add. And next thing, of course, you can get your Google AdWords certification. There's YouTube certifications. There's Facebook Blueprint. There's Flight School from Twitter. And of course, lynda.com. These are all resources that are available for you to get better at using each one of their platforms individually. Because of course, they want you to spend money with them, so they're gonna educate you on how to best spend money with them. Facebook even does a step better. Well, they'll have somebody call you, analyze what you're doing with Facebook, and tell you how to spend your money better, which is how I know that Facebook is dying. Like, the guy literally told me, it's like, no, that's not gonna work anymore. Don't even bother boosting your posts. That's not gonna work anymore. And hearing the Facebook guy telling me this is like, But it was true. He said, you need to start making videos. Make more videos, start doing the lead capture forms. That's the way you're gonna generate leads. And I'm like, okay. The other thing that I highly recommend is if you do decide to go with an agency, start looking for these logos. Most agencies you'll find are Google AdWords certified. They're like HubSpot Gold partners. Oh, by the way, there's one right there. I'm using my pointer. Yeah, he's a HubSpot. And he gives out free hugs. Yes, Josh is awesome. And of course, conferences. I recommend Inbound in Boston. I go every year. We also have Content Marketing World. The 2018 B2B Forum was another big one. And of course, DOYO Live. The fact that you're here means that you're already taking a step in the right direction. And that's it. So I know that we went over to some pretty heavy content, and I apologize. Sorry, not sorry. But hopefully they'll be able to give that out. Hopefully you got some photos. If not, we can talk about it. But in the meantime, let's go over some questions. Anyone have any questions regarding your marketing spend? Yes.
I run an agency.
Mm-hmm.
And I seem to run across clients that either are on one end or another on the spectrum on their website redo. Their website usually isn't mobile responsive, so we want to basically take the good and start over, like redesign. And they either think it's really inexpensive because they've seen some ads or something, or they think it's super expensive. So how do I know how to educate them, but how can I quickly kind of get them on the same page of
Value?
Yeah.
The biggest thing that I'd recommend as an agency is to go through HubSpot's agency certifications, because they actually have a whole course on just this, on how to bring that dollar value for website redesign, specifically that. I think it's, what is it? Something driven design for agencies. But they will tell you exactly how to set up a plan that not only get you the redesign, but will get you your monthly return on upkeep, because that's important. Because the website will go out of style. You'll give the back end to somebody else, and they'll completely screw it up. And that's how you would demonstrate value. Is they just go through all of it. But through my personal experience, I let them know the importance of the website, what the website's going to do as far as converting leads, what the website's purpose is, and let them know what happens when they don't do this, what the cost of not doing it is. And for people who say, oh, you're not charging me enough, well, I could charge you more if you want, but this is how much my time costs, so this is what it is. Now, if you feel like you need more bells and whistles, we can talk about that, and we can start adding zeros. But in the meantime, this is what I do, this is how much it is. Sure. Any other questions? Yes.
I recently gained the admin certification for Google. Just on the individual level, I do not work in my field whatsoever, and it's kind of upsetting. So I went through that to get back into it, and I'm fortunate enough to have a friend who owns a very small business who I worked with in school who trusts me to kind of get us started. But after her, when I move on to gaining other clients, what is a great way to kind of convince them to spend the money for it? Because I'm looking at a lot of different people who I know who have these like very small businesses who maybe aren't doing it right now, or they are, but just a little bit. How do I convince them to spend the money?
Well, the first thing, on the surface level, I don't know how many of you guys have spent money on Google AdWords, but that sticker shock, boy, woo! Man, I've had an agency, when I first started the company that I'm at now, they came up to me and it's like, yeah, you're gonna have to spend $10,000 a month. That was it, that's all he said. You're gonna have to spend $10,000 a month. But good news, that includes our services. About $7,000 that is gonna go to your ad spend. It's like, okay, but you're not helping me understand why I'm spending $10,000 a month on one thing. What I'd recommend doing is that breakdown that we were talking about before. Create a mock-up of this. Find out what a customer's lifetime value is. Find out what that customer acquisition cost would be if they went through Google. And just let them know this is what if they go through this conversion path starting here, this is how much money you stand to make. This is how much money you're probably gonna end up spending per lead. This is what the traffic is on that keyword. And start going over keywords with them. And at the very least, you're gonna educate the crap out of them about what they need to be qualifying for in SEO. By helping them go through that Moz breakdown. Case in point, we just launched an anti-ligature drain for showers that's exclusively for solid surface showers. And our sales guys are like, yeah, we need to call it ligature free, or no, ligature resistant, because that's the term, ligature resistant, that's what everyone's saying. And it's like, well, according to Moz, anti-ligature gets 3 times the searches as ligature free. Now, after some digging, I found out because ligature resistance is a newer term. And so what you think you need to do, it will actually shoot you in the foot. So maybe you should start with this one. Like, we can call it ligature resistant, but all of the words on the copy, everything else needs to say anti-ligature. And that's how we're going to get that triple search, get people in the door, but still have a relevant product to the people who only know the new term. But that level of education, and that's what it all boils down to. Whether or not you're an agency, whether or not you're doing it yourself, you need to educate yourself on where your money is going and how it's being spent. Don't just throw money at a problem because you're going to bleed it dry and there's people that are just waiting to just take it all. Did I answer your question? Cool. Josh. Well, what we're doing at my company is we're earmarking it, but it's in the sales, or it's in the marketing budget. Because we use HubSpot, all of our HubSpot expenditures are in our marketing budget, even though the sales team is using like the Sales Pro side and everything. But with that being said, if you remember what I was talking about with the gross percentage versus the fixed dollar amount marketing budget thing, what I do is I start with that fixed amount and tailor it to be under that certain fixed, percentage. So if we start fluctuating, I know what I need to do, but I know that there is a hard floor, and that starts with our software. Because certain things are never going to change. Certain things are just the price of doing business, and we actually file them under miscellaneous expense. Like that's how we just know that it's just gonna happen. So like our HubSpot, our GoDaddy, our Microsoft Office 365, we use the bookings feature on that because, well, long story short, the commercial team has Sales Pro, the residential team doesn't, so the residential team can't do bookings through HubSpot. They can't use meetings, so they have to use bookings through Microsoft, which is included in our portal. And it becomes a bit of a juggling act, but at the end of the day, it's just a flat floor. We know that this is gonna be our minimum spend is software. And whatever, because we know at the end of the day, whatever it is we're trying to do, we're not going to do without these tools. Any other questions? Yes?
You said that lifetime value is a profit number you're using, not a revenue number?
No, this is a revenue number. Yeah. Yes?
So what was the title of that third book?
Title of what? The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. Yes?
How do you find the lifetime value of a customer for a service-based business?
How long are they your customers? Like on average, is this like a reoccurring service?
Yeah, reoccurring service.
And how long do they stay as your customers? Okay, that's awesome. So then what I do, because that's literally the same question I had at my last job, because we had like a zero churn. It was beautiful. Our product was so amazing. No one left. And so what we did is we would just look at the subscription, multiply it times 10, and say they're just going to be with us for 10 years. It's because we know that we're that awesome and we have that kind of track record that we're just going to look at a 10-year lifetime value. Now, depending on what it is, that might not be a realistic thing. You might want to say 5 or you might want to say 25. It just depends on realistically how long you think this customer is going to be with you, not just stay with your service, but even be in existence. Is this an industry that you serve where people are constantly turning over? Just things to take into consideration. Any other questions? Bueller? No, we good? All right, well, thank you very much. If you have any other questions, feel free to find me. I'm Devyn, I've been out. No, I'm not gonna drop the mic. Thank you.